Most stories have these moments in them where we find ourselves asking, was this the intended route the author planned from the start? And the feeling within a fanbase will always be split down the middle depending on how we interpret it. You're either going to like some decisions that are made, and other times you'll hate them. And there is no moment that comes to recent memory that leads toward disdain than what occurred in the Perfect Preparation arc involving Maki and the Zenin clan. In some ways, it had soured some readers with Gege and why he handled it the way he did. While I do hear where those fans are coming from, I do not share the same resentment, and can even argue that if it were to happen, there was no better time than now. Which is why I'll be talking about the infamous Zenin Clan Massacre and why it had to happen at this stage of Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's go. You know, I haven't seen an opinion of a character switch up this much like I've recently seen with Maki in quite some time. I remember early into the story how well received she was as this non-curse user who strives to overcome and prove her family wrong after years of abuse to take over the clan and reform it into a place for Maki and her sister Mai to belong. That day came a lot sooner than we thought, and because of that, it's turned the heads of some people who weren't fans of seeing the Zenin clan, one of the 3 great clans of the Jujutsu world, get annihilated within a span of 48 hours. Riding from the momentum of the Shibuya incident into the Perfect Preparation arc, on the road to the Culling game, Gege made a decision to have Maki return to her clan to collect the weaponry that was needed in the up-and-coming battle against Kenjaku. However, this would lead to a battle to the death against her own family, a battle which saw her lose her sister Mai, who sacrificed her life to awaken the latent power left dormant within Maki, cutting down her own father after unlocking her potential, witnessing her own mother commit suicide, and doing her best Kill Bill impression by laying a can of whoop ass on the Zenin clan. That also so happens to be my favorite action sequence in the entire series so far, and Mappa must understand how important it is to make sure they don't miss a beat when animating it. Her fight with Naoya was the first glimpse of her capabilities as the modern day Toji Zenin, something I've been on board with ever since Toji's introduction and Yuki Tsukumo's conversation with Geto in the past, and as shown with the small glimpses before this arc and what she pulled off in it, a worthy successor has arrived on the scene. Over the course of the battle, Maki was able to find a way to defeat the cocky air of the Zenin, telegraphing the exact steps Naoya would use to attack her with speed before pummeling him to the surface, and a little while later, the clan which tormented her everyday life were reduced to near extinction. So what seems to be the issue here? For one, there are people who believe that this event happening now rather than later in the story is a huge problem. The other is that Maki had gotten too strong at too fast of a rate, making it feel, in quotations, unearned. And I've heard these takes from when Gege took his 1-month hiatus all the way to today, where they still echo in the back of my mind, especially with the ongoing events of the manga with Maki and Kamo's fight with Naoya, who has now become a vengeful cursed spirit, where we should be seeing Maki find a way to finally overcome her abuser and erase him from existence once and for all. A certain section of the fan base are still in a disagreement with Gege's choice to have gone down this path. I'm gonna put this out there so that we're as clear as possible. In no way do I foresee Maki losing or even dying at this stage of the story. Of course, you can't rule out anything with this series, but after having the development that she's had up to this point, killing off Maki, whether it was in the Perfect Preparation arc or even now at the current stage of the Culling game, would be a great insult and would generally give me a reason to worry when it comes to Gege's thought process. And on a lesser but still important note for any fans of this character, Noritoshi Kamo's involvement should be seen as a key factor of this fight. He was capable of altering Naoya's transformation thanks to his curse technique, as Naoya is on a higher plane to what he once was as a sorcerer, retaining his projection sorcery on top of him having the power of Mach 3 speed in battle. It's going to take more than just Maki to win this fight. So despite how things turned out for Naoya at the time, he's come back to do what he's intended to do, torment Maki for as long as possible before being laid to rest. When it comes to Naoya, despite my interest at the time in what he had to offer, he has proven to be nothing more than a selfish, cocky man-child who had thought he was better than everyone else, only for a reality check to come in with him losing to Maki and not even dying at her hands, but that of Maki's mother. I get it that he was a Toji fanboy, and believe me, who isn't? Cause if you're not, well, you're doing it all wrong. His problem is that there was someone else who fit Toji's profile to become his successor as a non-cursed user that goes against fate itself, who we all know at this point in time is Maki Zenin. And his arrogance led him to fail and see that, which is what led to his demise as a human. Now that he has returned as a vengeful cursed spirit, this has a chance of being the ultimate revenge match that allows Naoya to showcase his capabilities against the one who embarrassed him, whilst also giving Maki a chance to finish things under her terms once and for all. Naoya isn't someone for the future of the series, but to serve as an obstacle of the present that will give Maki the lifeline needed to build towards her own future. It was explained to us early on that in order to prevent someone's death leading to them returning as a cursed spirit, Jujutsu was essential to avoid that scenario. However, as stated a moment ago, Maki's mother was the one who had killed Naoya, so taking that into account, it was almost a certainty that Naoya would return at some point, which is happening now rather than later in the story, where any impact it would have had wouldn't be as strong down the line than at this very moment. And even with how Maki handled things before, this will prove as her first real test to overcome a far more dangerous Naoya in order to become a key component in the fight against Kenjaku later on. What happened to the Zenin clan is still something that needs resolving, and Gege shying away from it by going to the Hikari portion of the Perfect Preparation arc is a valid criticism to have, because as of right now, the Jujutsu headquarters along with the Gojo and Kamo clans are still deciding on what to do with the empty vacancy left behind by the Zenin. But considering how long we envisioned the story to go on for, a resolution should be realized sooner than later. After losing Mai, it's tough to see Maki want to carry on building a place for her sister to belong now that she's gone. And Megumi has no interest in leading the Zenin. The best solution would be to promote a new clan to fill the void at the top. Maki was tasked with destroying everything, and that's what she saw through to the end. You could also view this as the Zenin's failure that led to their own ruin. If they were aware that Maki could have had this sliver of a chance of being a Toji regen, why wasn't she eliminated upon the discovery of her having no curse energy? That mistake cost them their lives, and I can't feel sorry for them in the slightest had they been aware of that possibility. I don't want to come off as disrespectful, but while the Jujutsu clans are important to a certain section of the overall story involving its lore, they will never be of the same stature of importance as the likes of Kenjaku and Sukuna, meaning as the focal part of the story where they serve as the figureheads that drive the story forward. That isn't their role in all of this. When this manga ends after Kenjaku is defeated and Sukuna is exorcised, there is nothing else that can retain the same type of build and anticipation to see a storyline fulfill like the ones involving them. And I mean this from there being another antagonist to fill the boost left behind by the legends of the Heian era. So when the dust is settled with Kenjaku and Sukuna, so will the story shortly after. So if Gege was going to do anything revolving any of the Jujutsu clans, the time to do so will come when there's a chance for there to be focus on them, either during or after the culling game. Depending on where most people sit as of right now with how they see this arc ending, I believe Kenjaku won't fall here but in the next major arc of the story, as it seems like the culling games are preparing for something far more sinister lurking in the shadows. And with his recent visits to China as well as taking control of the Kamo clan, I don't foresee Kenjaku's role in the story ending within the culling game. So the outcome of this arc could lead to the other clans of the Jujutsu world getting involved at some point, allowing for them to take center stage for their moment to shine in the later stages of the manga. Looking at the overall picture, Maki having this stretch of development and progression for her character now rather than later in the story was the right move. If we are to believe what Gege said about the remaining time that is left of the series, having to wait until near the end of it for Maki to have her character develop, grow, and be finalized would hinder the other plans Gege has for the main cast and the rest of the story. There is a time and place for everything, and Maki's time just happens to be right now. She is important, but so are other characters in the long term, the likes of Yuji, Megumi, and of course Nobara. And trying to weasel in this period of coverage later on when we expect things to elevate with what's been building up throughout the culling game would be seen in my eyes as cramming in a slot rather than creating one when the opportunity arises. We have to face the music. We won't have 1,000 chapters to see this entire story completed. So with what time we have on us right now, having Maki's character arc happen in this moment is the way to go before it becomes a plot point with lesser value for success down the road. As we're seeing firsthand with the rematch against Naoya along with the inclusion of Daido and Mio, it's become clear enough that Maki still has a way to go before becoming Toji's successor. While observing the two newcomers that enter the fray, Maki is learning about what it is that they possess that she lacks at the current moment, while also picking up some valuable knowledge from watching Daido and Mio in battle. The freedom that eludes her because she's been enveloped by her anger that lingers on long after the Zenin were erased. Her place in the world for her to belong is now uncertain, and that uncertainty spills into her actions, clouding her judgment or preventing her from seeking the answers that are right in front of her. And now realizing what freedom is and being able to smile in the face of adversity despite walking between the lines of life and death. To expect this development that we are getting right now to happen much further in the series, and being asked to retain an interest in her arc at a later date, especially when other events are waiting to be delved into, for me is foolish thinking. The Zenin are gone and Gege won't go back to fix that decision, because when the chance for Maki to restore them was taken away from her, the only option left for the Zenin was for their dismissal from the story. So my point to tie everything together is that these complaints about the Zenin getting done dirty or being removed too quickly are completely understandable. I just find the criticism, or better yet the hatred for that section of the story, to be a bit premature, as until we see what avenue Avenue Gege plans on taking things from here on out, I cannot judge something that has yet to see its resolution come full circle. Right now the focus is on the Culling game, and until that is resolved, we won't get many major developments until they are required to be in the spotlight. There is still plenty of time left to get these things sorted, folks. Relax. And while I don't want to use Gege getting sick in the middle of writing Perfect Preparation as an excuse, had he not been ill during that time, we would probably be having a different conversation right now. So until this is addressed, I'm relaxed on the situation until Gege decides to make it a point to reference what happened to the Zenin and their status in the Jujutsu world when the time is right. Yet their dismissal from the story right now is justified. Maki had become the second coming of Toji Zenin, and her task to destroy the Zenin was something they couldn't prevent. Their arrogance and lack of seriousness to get rid of a potential problem gave birth to a demon that was beyond control or overcoming. In the meantime, I'll be looking forward to see how Maki and Kamo handle their battle with Naoya in the chapters to come, because until Maki can get rid of the last monster in her life, the Zenin can never be reformed in the vision she once had for them before becoming their very own monster. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you make of the Zenin Clan Massacre? Do you feel that this happened way too early in the story, or was this the right time? Has Maki's growth been justified with all the info we were told in the lead up to it happening? What would you like to see happen next with the clans of the Jujutsu world? Like the video if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new here if you want to be part of the weekly experience when it comes to my coverage of Jujutsu Kaisen week in and week out. Subscribe if you haven't already, click on the bell door to stay up to date with everything that goes on the channel, and with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video. Commodore signing off, thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care.